In the words of the greatest quarterback of all time, Diego Pavia, Vandy, we're effing turned. And then right before that, he said that God gave him a vision as a kid, and this is what it was all about. And going into the game, he said only God knew what the outcome was going to be. But I love someone who has the duality of man right within his soul. What a win for Vanderbilt football over the weekend. We got to watch one of the greatest upsets in college football history, and that to me represents a grade A day in the sport. I had the time of my life watching Vanderbilt not just flukily upset Alabama, but dominate at times Alabama. They scored 40 points. Vanderbilt football scored 40 points on the University of Alabama, the #1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. And Diego Pavia now has 3 games in his college career where he has been an underdog of 21 plus points, and he has won the football game. And the biggest and the brightest of them all came on Saturday. The stat was crazy that Vanderbilt against Nick Saban coached Alabama teams, they had played 4 times. Vandy had scored a grand total of 13 points in those 4 contests. Vanderbilt had 13 points in the first quarter of the game on Saturday. Right after the game ended, shout out to the Vandy in-game arena crew or in-game stadium crew. They immediately put on their Jumbotron the quote Nick Saban made earlier in this week saying the only place in the SEC that's not hard to play is Vanderbilt. And they just rolled that on repeat as the fans are orderly going onto the field to storm the field. You can't call it as much of a storm the field. Like, they are a very organized group at Vanderbilt. We've now seen it twice. They're getting better. They're learning on it. They were organized.
It's not a lot of people at these games.
Organized
That's
chaos.
why it looks so organized. It's not 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. It's not tens of thousands of people. It's like 15,000. Maybe that many. It's not a whole lot. And I do feel like as that game went on, it got more crowded. I feel like what ended up happening was people were like,
this might really happen.
This is going to happen. We need to be there for this. And they left their dorm rooms and went over to the field.
It was quite the sight. It's just one of those things where, like, in your life, the way that we are built, the way that our brains are built, we are not supposed to read the sentence, Vanderbilt upsets #1 ranked Alabama. Like, that's just not something that is supposed to happen in the context of life. It is one of those things that can only happen in the chaotic world of college football. The NFL could never, and I am so grateful that we live in a college football world where something like that can happen, because it's just the sheer chance of a Saturday afternoon going the way of Vanderbilt beating Alabama with a quarterback who transferred from New Mexico State, who got his beginning at a military institute, who wasn't able to go to the school he wanted to go to at New Mexico, who once upon a time may or may not have peed on the logo at New Mexico because he was mad about that school and ending up at the state rival in New Mexico State. And then with Jerry Kill, his former coach at New Mexico State, makes the transfer over to the SEC. And what stood out to me was Vanderbilt has at least built a team where they have SEC caliber athletes. They are not Alabama. Alabama has more athletes. Georgia's always going to have more athletes. They just recruit differently.
Everybody has more athletes and better athletes.
But they have
than Vanderbilt.
more.
They have more.
More than they've ever had before.
Who, Vanderbilt?
Yes.
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 This is the same Vanderbilt who went on the road and lost to Georgia State or Southern.
It's unfortunate.
All right. So
why you got to bring that up on a day
because,
where we are celebrating the great Commodores?
That's what makes
even
it
better.
The great Commodores. Was Lionel Richie out there?
Yeah.
Those were the only Commodores I recognized before that game. They brought this up on the game. Ranked teams that scored 35 points or more versus unranked teams were 364 and 2. Mm-hmm. Vanderbilt made it 364 and 3. Alabama was scoring. They couldn't. I've never seen Alabama defense unable to stop a team, let alone unable to stop Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. They couldn't stop Vandy. It's like, oh, okay, here we go. This is where they turned it on. I think they scored a touchdown 28-31 or something like that. And Vanderbilt went right down the field and got another one. It's like, what are we doing here? What type of topsy-turvy world is this? Why can they not stop Vandy?
You had that Ryan Williams touchdown where he's just so unfair.
Which one was the Ryan Williams?
The one where he ran backwards into the end zone, had the two guys miss.
So that's a 17-year-old from what I hear.
Youngest, I don't know factually, but I'm just going to go ahead and guess. Youngest college football player to ever lose to Vanderbilt. while being ranked let me rephrase. Youngest college football player on a number 1 ranked team to ever lose to Vanderbilt. I think that can be factually absolutely stamped. And we don't know what that's going to do to the young man's mind.
That catch on the play you're talking about, where his body is out of bounds, but his feet come down inbounds and he's gone. Incredible stuff. Remarkable stuff to see. And Alabama has athletes like that on the field. And those type of athletes are supposed to just do whatever the hell they want to Vanderbilt. And they couldn't. You got Malachi out here losing his mind.
I was going to say, I cannot believe that man is still on the team. If Nick Saban was still the coach of Alabama, do you think Malachi Moore is still on the team? And for those who missed it, Malachi Moore at one point kicked the ball out of frustration. Fine, but
don't do it.
Not fine when it's attached to also taking a player by the helmet and just throwing his head into the ground.
Fine. Like, don't do that, but fine.
Don't do either.
The issue is when I'm telling you to come out of the game and you're like, F you, I'm not coming out of the game.
Okay, all of the above.
No, that's the one where you're not supposed to touch players, especially in college, but like Malachi would have had to see me as a coach. And he would have had to see Nick Saban as a coach. Can you imagine telling your coach, no, I'm not coming out of the game? I would undress him on the field, literally be taking his clothes off of him on the field.
No,
and I would and then I would put him off of the bus. Figure out your own way home. Good luck. Are you kidding me?
You're walking home.
Are you kidding me? Call your mom and daddy. Somebody will come get you. I don't know. I don't care.
Call one of those bachorette buses and you can ride with one of the woo-woo girls.
Ride the tractors home. I don't give a damn. That's I get that you're upset about losing to Vanderbilt, and you should be upset about losing to Vanderbilt, but that part of that can't be happening.
But it was wonderful. To see those fans take the goalposts all the way down Broadway, 3 miles down Broadway. First, getting the goalposts down, the fans begin to take them out of the stadium, and you're like, oh, this is fun.
Why do we always put it in the body of water?
That's a great question. And someone asked if it was a Tennessee thing, because obviously the Vols fans did it after they knocked off Alabama. But first they gave it a nice little parade down Broadway. And I just cannot help but think of all of the bachelorette parties in Nashville over the weekend who had no idea what was occurring in this city that they chose to have their woo-woo bachelorettes on, and then coming out and being like, what are these giant yellow tubes coming down the street? What's going on right now? And then ultimately getting to the Cumberland River, where eventually the fire department fished the goalposts out of the Cumberland River. They have been rescued, and I guess they're going to be cut up and given as souvenirs and donations, which can maybe pay for the fine of storming the field, because the SEC still makes teams pay fines. Both Tennessee and Arkansas have to pay, Vanderbilt and Arkansas have to pay fines for their field storms. Come to the Pac-12. They have no field storming fines there. Come on over.
I am anti-field storming, right? Arkansas should not be storming the field.
Washington should not be storming the field.
Should not be storming the field. The last 8 road games Alabama's lost, those teams have stormed the field. LSU should not be storming the field. I don't think Missouri should be storming the field. Auburn should not be storming the field. The exception being kick 6, right? Kick 6 is just incredible. You got it.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt.
Deserved.
Storm the field, baby.
Yes.
You got it, man. 0-60 versus top 5 teams. 23-game losing streak to Alabama. Last time they beat Alabama, nobody affiliated with this show. You, me, Kyra, throw regular Jacob in there. The only person alive on everybody affiliated with this show. The last time Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, which was 1984, was Mike. And I'm pretty sure Mike was just out of high school, right? That's how long it's been. And then I gave you the stat, 364-2 were teams who were ranked after scoring 35 points or more against unranked teams, right? Vanderbilt, you got it, dog. You earned it.
Hats to you.
Anchor down, baby.
The Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt, live every weekday at 8 a.m.